He built one of the biggest careers in modern music by saying almost nothing about himself. For over a decade, Bruno Mars gave the world the songs, the performances, the spectacle, and kept everything else locked behind a door that nobody could find, let alone open. He did not tweet about heartbreak. He did not post sad selfies. He did not go on podcasts to set the record straight. He let the rumors breathe. He let the questions pile up. And when the world filled in the blanks with stories about gambling debts, broken relationships, and industry betrayals, he either said nothing at all or turned the whole mess into a punchline. But something shifted in 2025. At 40 years old, with 16 Grammy Awards on his shelf, 150 million monthly Spotify listeners streaming his catalog, and a network conservatively estimated at $175 million, Bruno Mars began to talk. Not everything. Not in a tell-all interview where he handed anyone ammunition, but enough to make people sit up, lean in, and realize the story they had been following was only the surface of something much deeper. So today, we are going all the way in. The real story of Peter Gene Hernandez, the boy from Waikiki who performed 2 shows a night at age 4, lost everything twice before he turned 30, and rebuilt himself into an artist that streaming platforms have never seen before. We are telling the story behind the story. And the net worth figure at the end, it will shock you more than the music did. When people talk about artists who were born for this, they usually mean it as a figure of speech. In Bruno Mars's case, it is closer to documented fact. He arrived on October 8, 1985, in Honolulu, Hawaii, as Peter Gene Hernandez, the 5th of 6 children in a family where music was not a hobby but a way of life. His father, Pete Hernandez, was a percussionist with deep roots in Latin music. His mother, Bernadette San Pedro Bayo, was a Filipino singer and hula dancer who had come to Hawaii with rhythm already in her blood. They met while performing together. They fell in love over music, and they raised their children inside it. The family home was not quiet. It was not ordinary. Songs moved through every room. Rehearsals were part of daily routine. And by the time young Peter was old enough to toddle across the stage already felt like home. He began performing at 4 years old with the family's Las Vegas-style revue at the Nautilus Hotel in Waikiki. His act? Little Elvis. He wore a miniature glittering jumpsuit that could fit inside a shoebox and copied Elvis Presley's moves with a confidence that made adults stop and stare. In December 1990, the Honolulu Advertiser ran a headline calling him Tiny Elvis after he performed for a crowd of 40,000 at the Aloha Bowl halftime show and, by most accounts, outshined everyone else on that field. He appeared on the Arsenio Hall show. By 1992, he had even landed a small role in the film Honeymoon in Vegas alongside Nicolas Cage, earning $600 for a single day of work. He later joked, with perfect comic timing, that it counted as his first Las Vegas residency. By the time he turned 10, Bruno had already stood on a stage approximately 1,000 times. That kind of repetition does not just build skill, it builds identity. The stage was where he made sense of the world, and that understanding would carry him further than any single talent ever could. But the glitter had another side. When his parents' marriage ended in 1997, Bruno was only 12 years old, and the stability he had known dissolved almost overnight. He, his father, and his brother moved through a stretch of life that most people who now buy $6,500 resale tickets to his shows would find almost unimaginable. They slept in the back of a yellow Cadillac. They found rooftops. They stayed in an abandoned place called Paradise Park, where peacocks cried through the night. Showers sometimes meant slipping into hotel pools. Food could be a stop at 7-Eleven for a cheap Spam musubi. For a long stretch, there was no electricity at home, and Bruno practiced guitar by moonlight because there was simply no money for anything else. Kids at school noticed the thrift store clothes. Bruno noticed something different. He noticed exactly how badly he wanted more. He started performing as Michael Jackson for $75 a night, using those small checks to cover bus fare and pay for demo tapes. The hunger that would later drive one of the most successful careers in pop music was already there, and had been forged in nights that were far rougher than any of his fans ever imagined. He carried those years quietly. They never became a press release or a sob story in a magazine spread, but they shaped everything that came after. The relentlessness, the precision, the refusal to release something until it was exactly right. None of that came from confidence alone. It came from knowing at a bone-deep level what it felt like when things fell apart. Music shifts, determined energy. In 2003, at 18 years old, he left Hawaii for Los Angeles with $600 in his pocket, 3 demo CDs, and a one-way ticket. He had decided he would not return home empty-handed. That was not bravado. That was a young man with nothing to fall back on, betting everything on the only thing he had ever known. The first years in Los Angeles tested him immediately. He moved through cheap motels on Sunset Boulevard. He shared a small Koreatown studio with 6 other struggling musicians. Money disappeared faster than it came. He bluffed his way into a Thursday night DJ slot at a dive bar on Van Nuys Boulevard, lasted 2 nights before being fired, and used the cash to survive a little longer. Some weeks, dinner was 99-cent tacos from Jack in the Box, eaten the same way, several nights in a row. In early 2004, Motown Records offered him a deal, a thin one, as he later described it, with fewer pages and a breakfast menu. The label had a specific vision for him, a box he did not fit and did not want. Within months, they dropped him without releasing a single song. For a young man from Hawaii who had told his family a record deal was coming, that kind of failure carries a particular weight. But failure, as it turned out, had an unexpected gift attached. Through that same industry circle, Bruno connected with songwriter Philip Lawrence, who had also been pushed aside by the business. They understood each other quickly. Both had been knocked down. Both were still standing. That connection became the foundation of one of the most productive creative partnerships in modern pop music. By 2006, Bruno, Philip Lawrence, and producer Ari Levine were grinding through long days together in a small Hollywood studio. They worked out musical ideas in the backseat of Lawrence's old Toyota Corolla, parked outside, then carried them inside and kept building. They named their production team the Smeezingtons, after a phrase they used when they loved a beat. And they studied hit songs obsessively, reverse engineering arrangements, breaking down structures, learning why certain melodies burrowed into people's heads and refused to leave. Bruno later said they dissected more than 1,000 songs before truly locking into their own sound. That patience, that willingness to study rather than guess, separated them from almost everyone else. The big turn came gradually, then all at once. Bruno and the Smeezingtons began selling songs to other artists because rent did not wait. They sold a track to Menudo for $20,000 that helped them avoid eviction. They worked on Flo Rida's Right Round. They helped shape Nothing on You for B.O.B. and Billionaire for Travie McCoy. Before most of the world knew his face, they already knew his voice, singing hooks on songs that were climbing charts around the globe. Then came October 4, 2010, and the release of Doo-Wops and Hooligans. Just the Way You Are entered the Billboard Hot 100 in August 2010 and climbed to number 1 within weeks, staying on the chart for 48 weeks. Grenade hit just as hard for a debut era. The run was stunning. 2 massive singles, an album that began moving around the world at a pace few newcomers ever achieve. He followed it in 2012 with Unorthodox Jukebox, which critics tried to categorize and mostly gave up on. It moved through pop, reggae, disco, soul, and soft rock without ever losing the thread that held it together, which was simply Bruno himself. Locked Out of Heaven stayed at number 1 for 6 weeks. When I Was Your Man broke hearts everywhere it played, and nobody could quite explain how the same artist delivered both records and made each one feel completely natural. In November 2014, Uptown Funk with Mark Ronson arrived and erased any remaining doubt. The song ruled the Billboard Hot 100 for 14 weeks. It spread across the world. It became nearly impossible to escape. Its brass, swagger, and sharp sense of fun were irresistible from the first listen, and it entered the permanent rotation of songs that define an era. Then in 2016 came 24K Magic, a tight, joyful record built from his love of late 1980s and early 1990s R&B. At the 2018 Grammy Awards, it swept major categories: Album of the Year, Record of the Year, and Song of the Year, making it the first R&B album since Lauryn Hill's The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill to win all 3 in a single night. That kind of night changes the way a career is remembered. And for Bruno, it confirmed what had been building for years. Music softens, intimate tone. For all the noise around the music, Bruno kept his personal life protected with the same discipline he brought to his recordings. His relationship with Jessica Caban, model actress, winner of the first season of Model Latina in 2008, began in late spring 2011 when the two met at the hotel on Rivington in New York. Friends later said he spent nearly 40 minutes building up the courage to walk over to her table. When he finally did, they talked until 2 in the morning. That quiet meeting turned into something lasting and almost entirely private. Within 8 months, Jessica had relocated across the country. By the time Bruno headlined the Grammys in 2014, they had quietly purchased a $6.5 million home in Studio City together and adopted a Rottweiler named Geronimo, who later became a fixture of Bruno's Las Vegas backstage life. The public got almost none of this in real time. In 2016, Bruno called Jessica my rock in one carefully edited Rolling Stone quote, and then moved on. Even When I Was Your Man, the song millions of listeners linked to romantic pain, stayed mostly unexplained for years, until Bruno admitted that recording felt like bleeding on a tape because he'd been afraid of losing her during a long stretch of creative chaos. Then, in late 2024, small signs began appearing. Anniversary posts disappeared from Jessica's Instagram. In January 2025, when someone commented under one of her photos expressing sadness about her and Bruno, she replied with a line that spread across entertainment media within hours. "I will always celebrate and be happy for all of his continued achievements. Cheering from afar." That one phrase set off a full rumor cycle. Entertainment outlets tracked separate holiday schedules. Reports followed about separate living arrangements and Bruno extending his Dolby Live residency through August 2025 in a way that complicated any effort to repair things. Yet even then, the story remained deliberately unclear. Neither made a direct public statement. The Studio City home reportedly remained jointly owned. As of the time of this script, neither Bruno Mars nor Jessica Caban has officially confirmed or denied. A split, a silence that is in itself entirely consistent with how they have handled everything from the very beginning. Music picks up, slightly playful. In March 2024, a story exploded across the internet claiming that Bruno Mars owed MGM Resorts approximately $50 million in gambling debt and was effectively working off the balance through his Park MGM residency. It began with an unnamed source on a News Nation segment and spread within days to gossip sites, Reddit threads, and mainstream entertainment coverage. Bruno Mars broke was trending on X. Google searches for the claim passed 4 million within 48 hours. MGM responded swiftly and directly. The company told Forbes and Billboard that the rumors were completely false, that Bruno carried no debt with them, and that their partnership was built on mutual respect. In Las Vegas, where corporate responses to sensitive matters are typically short and carefully hedged, the directness of that statement stood out. Bruno handled it differently. He did not issue a written denial. He did not sit down for a defensive interview. During a Park MGM show on April 12, 2024, he told the crowd that ever since people started saying he owed $50 million, his phone had gone quiet and his friends had all disappeared. The clip hit 6.8 million views on TikTok within a day. Then, when Spotify announced in January 2025 that it had become the first artist in the platform's history to reach 150 million monthly listeners, he reposted the news with a joke about streaming his way out of debt. During his surprise appearance with Rose at SoFi Stadium, he shouted another version of the same line to 64,000 people. Each joke pulled the story out of gossip territory and turned it into part of his legend. Site index equals 14-1. In June 2024, when asked directly about the gambling rumors in an interview with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, he said, "I love the lore that I am a Las Vegas lounge singer in debt to the mob. I can work with that." /site. That is not the response of a man rattled by controversy. That is the response of someone who understands, at a deep level, how narrative actually works. Music expands, grand and modern. After the 24K Magic era, Bruno Mars moved into collaborations that push his reach far beyond anything a solo album could achieve alone. Silk Sonic, his partnership with Anderson .Paak, released an evening with Silk Sonic on November 12, 2021. The album sold 104,000 pure vinyl copies in its first week, giving the duo the biggest vinyl opening for an R&B act since Nielsen began tracking data in 1991. Their U.S. tour earned $144.8 million from just 37 shows, approximately $3.9 million per night, and resale tickets for the MGM Grand Finale reached $6,500 on StubHub. Then came Die with a Smile with Lady Gaga in August 2024, a song that pulled in 27.4 million global Spotify streams in its first 24 hours, surpassing the previous single-day record. It ruled Billboard's Global 200 for 18 straight weeks and reached multi-platinum status in 32 countries in less than 6 months. And then Rose from Blackpink, their collaboration APT, dropped in October 2024 with a 9-second guitar riff teaser that got 42 million TikTok views in 12 hours. When the full track arrived, it debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100, the highest chart entry ever for a female K-pop duet in the United States. By August 2025, the song had crossed 3 billion combined streams across platforms. At the 2025 Grammy Awards, Bruno walked away with a 16th win, performing Die with a Smile with a 54-piece gospel choir. He held a note for 11 seconds. Social media called him a human saxophone. The numbers kept growing. Tone becomes revealing and precise. So, let us talk about the number. Site index equals 3-1. Bruno Mars' net worth is estimated at $175 million in 2025, according to Celebrity Net Worth, stemming from music sales and streaming, lucrative concert tours, endorsements, business ventures, and his Las Vegas residency at MGM Resorts /site. But the breakdown is where the real story lives. Site index equals 8-1. In 2013 alone, Bruno Mars earned $38 million before taxes and expenses. By 2014, he had improved that to $60 million in pre-tax income. Between June 2017 and June 2018, he earned $100 million, making him the highest paid musician in the world that year. /site. Site index equals 4-1. His 24K Magic World Tour, running from 2017 to 2018, sold over 3.5 million tickets and grossed $389.4 million worldwide. /site, that single tour, built around one 9-track album, earned more than many artists generate across their entire careers. Site index equals 3-1. His Las Vegas residency nets him approximately $1.58 million per show, according to Casino.org. /site. When you consider that he has performed hundreds of residency dates since 2016, the math becomes staggering. Site index equals 9-1. He has sold over 150 million records globally, generated an estimated $32 million from domestic album sales alone, and recorded over 70 billion streams on music streaming platforms. /site. He is the first artist ever to earn 5 RIA Diamond certified singles, meaning 5 separate songs have each sold or streamed the equivalent of 10 million units. Beyond music, he co-owns Silver Rum alongside Anderson .Paak. He has partnerships with Fender Guitars, Japanese retailer Don Quixote, and Western wear brand Stetson. His Pinky Ring Lounge at the Bellagio in Las Vegas added yet another revenue stream tied directly to his brand. And as a songwriter and producer, his credits extend to nearly 200 additional awards under his name for work done for other artists, including Adele, Cardi B, and CeeLo Green. The $175 million figure is remarkable on its own, but when you trace how it was built, record by record, tour by tour, joke by joke in the face of a debt rumor designed to topple him, it becomes something else entirely. Peter Jean Hernandez grew up sleeping in the back of a yellow Cadillac, practicing guitar by moonlight because there was no electricity, performing Elvis impressions for $75 a night to cover bus fare. He was dropped by his first label before they released a single song with his name on it. He spent years as the voice of other people's hits, recognizable but unnamed.